maintenance inside and out. You can see the existing sheds here on this slide, and these are the ones that we're requesting be demolished. These also have significant structural, water, and insect damage, and any salvageable pieces would be saved. We've done that with other properties and reused wood in different instances, sometimes inside the home, sometimes out.
Megan, do you have a bigger picture of that middle shed?
I don't in the packet, but I have some probably in my phone.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Next slide, talking about fences and gates. We want to continue what is already on the sides to match the neighbors. So we just want to continue the cedar and metal fencing on the sides and the rear, and then the wrought iron gates are proposed for the front and where the end of the lot slopes down to the creek. I've spoken with Mr. Rivera and I've showed him the site plan, and he's very excited about the fencing. He said that a lot of nefarious activity has been going on because of the lack of security and because the structures attract bad behavior. This is a historic city map that we found at the archives in the county courthouse. It's dated 1965. As you can see where the star is, the original lot fronted Washington Street. So it did not front Travis Street. Since then, this lot has been replatted. And if you think about where the location of this house is with the original configuration of the platting, it's not original. And it suggests that this home was a back accessory dwelling. It was never meant to be a main home. I also talked about this with Mr. Rivera. So this is an exceptional case to showcase a historic dwelling up front when it was never supposed to be up front. Next slide. In this, I just kind of wanted to show a side-by-side of what this building could be. This is an example. The bottom is an example of the Camden House on the first slide and how it was restored. And you can see that behind the sheet metal, there is some existing wood that is preserved. It appears to be in much better condition than the sheds, and it appears to be in much better condition than all the wood that's exposed. So on to the next slide. And I know this is a meeting for the site plan and the fencing, but I wanted to add these details in so you kind of get an idea of where we're going with this. So I wanted to give some basic details on the historic restoration, and it would be to remove the sheet metal that's not original. We would use as much of the existing wood as possible. We would replace the windows and doors with historically appropriate products and replace the roof with new metal roof and have a pier and beam foundation. This is not an actual plan. This is just an example I found on Pinterest, but it's a pretty good example of what this old house could be. And of course, we go back to the original site plan. It's an accessory dwelling to the main house. It would be used as a casita to the main house. On the next slide, I wanted to give examples of the new construction materials, just the basics on what we would use or what we would want to use. The main elements of the home would be it's a single story. We would want to use a variation of limestone, siding, and wood to match the little casita, a metal wood roof, and a slab foundation. And you can see that this style is pretty popular here in Fredericksburg, and this is something that we would like to have. So in conclusion, we're requesting the approval of the new site plan, which include which includes relocating the existing small structure to the northeast corner of the historic lot to allow acceptable space for a single-family dwelling behind the historic structure. We want to remove the 3 existing storage shed structures to allow for a driveway. These buildings are structurally compromised and unsafe with heavy water and insect damage. The usable materials will be deconstructed and saved. We would like to construct a continuation of the existing side cedar fences with metal posts and crossbars to the back and rear side of the property and construct a 4-foot metal panel wire fence with sliding and front walk-in gates at the front of the property at East Travis as well as towards the back of the property where there's a significant slope towards Town Creek. And that's important. That's important that we have that to secure the lot, especially if we're going to start moving things around. We'd like it to be secure. So our goal is to get the conceptual site plan approved so we can move the existing house. That would be lovely. And to construct our fences and remove the 3 dilapidated storage sheds prior to moving forward with our project. Upon approval, we'll be continuing to work with our architect to provide elevations, materials, etc. of the proposed new construction home and the restoration of the existing structure, adhering to the Fredericksburg historical approval process. I believe that's it, and I'm
Great, thanks so much.
open for questions.
You bet. So before we do that, Shelby, you want to run through?
I'll take this one. Thank you, Morgan.
Megan.
I'm sorry,
It's okay.
Megan. Megan. Megan came in a couple months ago. This, as you all know, this property has been the subject of a demolition by neglect letter and numerous meetings, and so it's been on the market. And luckily, found a good buyer. So when Megan and her father came in, it was refreshing. Like, okay, maybe this is actually going to fall into the right hands. But of course, at that meeting, I couldn't guarantee anything, right? That conversation that we've always had about this small historic structure and its placement on this large city lot. So when anybody called, any potential buyer, that was the advice. I think you could probably move it, knowing that it's in the middle of the lot, but the board would have to approve that. Now, where it got moved was a big question. Should it go back? Should it come forward? And so we had talked about moving it forward. So on this site plan, I would like to see a little bit more context on either side. I think Shelby pulled up the Google Earth map so we can see kind of the buildings on either side. Functionally, historically, this was a Meyer property. 313 was a Meyer property. The properties behind it were all the same Meyer family. So it stands to reason that, it's kind of associated with 313. And I think bringing it up a little closer to that is probably appropriate. I would like to see how that, on a larger scale, how it fits on this block. And I just can't tell that with this site plan. Obviously, the restoration will be very important, getting those details right. It is small. There is a lot of historic material left. We've talked also about the metal, which obviously isn't original, but has likely been on there 100 years and has done a good job of protecting the wood, as you can see, as you juxtapose it against the other buildings that haven't been clad in metal. So I think there would be a case for keeping some, if not all of the metal, but at least a portion of it. I think Richard and I had a similar discussion on a house on the Pioneer Museum property. So the value of the metal, that it has been there so long. So we'll want to see those details brought back. But as far as the site plan, it's obviously kind of hard to speak to the new house other than the massing and scale. So we'll need to see more detail about that. But tonight I think we should discuss this concept of moving it and where it should go, and then bring back more detail on new construction. Generally, we don't recommend front yard fences. That's just not typical for the neighborhood, for the district. So one other thing to note. But overall, very, very glad to see this project move forward. I'm sure they'll do a lovely job. We'll just have to get the details right.
So, question for you. So, you would like to see a site plan that includes the other lots?
Yes, usually when we actually do a formal site plan, that's a requirement on our site plan is to show adjacent property so I can see where it lines up to 313 and 309 as far as the proximity to the street and the proximity to 313, which 313 in and of itself is oddly placed on that lot. So I don't know that putting them so close together is appropriate, but moving it up.
So, did you get the letter from Mr. Rivera?
I believe you did send an email in support, yes.
Yeah. So he was okay with it being close to his house.
That's commentary, yes.
Okay.
So we'll discuss the historic appropriateness of it.
Okay.
So I will say I received a letter of support from Mr. Rivera, the next door neighbor, Mr. Bo Carpenter, who owns a property on San Antonio Street. And one more. I don't know where she didn't live in the neighborhood, but there was one more letter of general support for the project.
It was Lauren Gomez, and I think she has a house on Schubert.
Thank you. So thanks very much, Mr. President. First, I applaud you guys for taking on such a big project. I think it's going to be get done with it. It sounds like it's going to be a really nice property, so, and an addition to the district as well. So thanks all. First off, I would agree with the city, and we'll open it up here with the board. We're going to definitely need to see some more information on the elevations, front elevations, and how the house actually fits into the new construction. So you may not get complete site approval tonight, but I think we can give you some direction. I think probably the two things to really discuss tonight is the demolition of the outbuildings, and then also the ability to move the historic property somewhere on the location on the site. Other than that, I think we're going to need some more information from you guys, but hopefully that'll help you get started on your planning. And so with that, let's just open it up to the board for.
I have a question for you, David.
Yeah.
So on the elevations, we don't want to get super far into design, if we're not sure our plan is going to work. So does the site plan, does it need to have squares, like a footprint, or does it need to have the building?
Two things we typically look at when we're trying to approve new construction with historic assets. Volume, size and mass of the new construction plays a key role, and I'm sure you can get if you don't already have the guidelines for that. So that's probably going to be an issue here, considering you probably don't want to build a new. I don't know how big is that the current structure? It's probably 600-700 foot.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Yeah, so I'm guessing you're going to want to go a bit bigger than that, and so that's going to be an issue that we're going to need to see exactly the volume and mass that you want to put there, and then how does it blend in with the existing structure? Does it complement it? Does it highlight it, or does it shelter it or hide it? So those are the two big issues that we're going to have to see with that front elevation and the north elevation.
So let's say that the massing, the volume doesn't make sense for the front. Would it make sense for the back, for this house to go to the back?
Potentially, but let's open it up to this discussion for the rest of the board.
Okay.
And maybe we can come up with a direction for you guys.
Okay. I'm writing notes, so.
You said something about Google Earth. Were you going to show us the neighborhood? Thank you. I have no problem tearing down the ancillary buildings, but y'all think.
Have you guys inspected them?
What'd you say, Richard?
I think they're done. Yeah.
They're pretty far gone. Yes, I would agree.
There's probably some really good materials, probably a lot of long leaf pine in there that sound like you're going to harvest anyway. So
I'll open it up for discussion then. They're sitting on a lot that's 20,000 square feet. I think it's ridiculous that we would try to limit them to a second home on this property that would be in scale to this building. It's very similar to the project that I did at the corner of Austin and Bowie, where we saved the Sunday house and we played musical houses on that lot.
Mhm.
And we actually took the bungalow on the corner of Austin and Bowie and moved it back to the back of the lot and built a larger house on the corner there for Mr. Carpenter. He owns it now.
Okay.
He wasn't the original owner, but that's kind of what we did there. So I think bringing it up to the northeast corner is a great idea. It'll showcase it. Like Anna said, I'd probably like to see the tin stay on it because it's been on there for 100 years and it's very unique product kind of. I know it's a Depression era product, but it is unique and there's not a lot of those left. So
I do have a question about that metal because it's not, I mean, as you know, that sheet metal is not printed the way it is now. So it's lined up all jagged. It's not linear. It's not cohesive.
Yeah.
It's not aesthetic,
right.
you know?
We just did the one at San Antonio and Milam and we took it off and reinstalled it where it's all correct.
Linear.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about the holes and the window cutouts and?
We worked with it. You could go by there. I felt it was important to save that part of our history because it's just not. That's not written in stone.
I'm
That's
just
just
writing
the
notes, so
I mean,
listening.
the press tin is really unique. And so I think that's part of preserving that history. And so whether you're able to do it on the whole building or at least on the front part of it, something that.
There's
Maybe-
salvage sources on it. You can also buy it new from Chelsea in the same print.
Maybe in the back.
Maybe. I don't think we're at that point of discussion right now.
Okay.
Oh, so if the building is going to be moved, but we don't have a plan in front of us of what the building is going to look like, then what are you going to do? Put it back exactly the way that it is right now until you come up with a plan to show us? That's what I don't feel like I have enough information because the picture that you showed of the what proposed new building front would look like changes the historic aspect of the building. I mean, the doors, everything, it changes it, adding that extra.
Oh, so that, ignore the dormer. The dormer is just, like I said, I found that picture on Pinterest. It was the closest thing I could find to that little house.
And you're not thinking about going from two doors to one door, are you?
I am. I don't see how two doors makes sense. And even if you go in that house, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that might be a problem.
Yeah, I
That's a
can't.
problem.
go with that.
That's historic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to be a casita. What difference does it make? But it matters from a historic standpoint, just like the
On the
tin
front
does.
elevation.
Yeah.
So maybe
So y'all want tin and y'all want the doors.
hold off on that for just a minute. Let's go through things that you're going to actually get tonight. So how about we break the application up? So let's talk about the demolition of the ancillary buildings first.
I move we approve demolition of the demolition buildings of the three ancillary buildings.
Is there a
Sorry.
second?
A second.
Any further discussion on that? So all those in favor of approval of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Right. So you have approval to demolish the three ancillary.
Thank you. That
buildings.
gives us the driveway.
Okay. How about we do the next thing, the fencing? Let's talk about that specifically.
I don't think fencing is going to play into your overall design, so I'd rather wait on the fencing until we get a house. That's just my opinion.
Just thinking about for safety and security.
I thought Megan said they wanted to fence the lot to protect it while they're working on it. So can we not approve it now? Is that what that?
Yes, and the reason, I mean, it's important to us that we secure our equipment and our materials, but also Mr. Rivera said that people come in through Town Creek and they get into that little house because it's accessible.
What'd you say, Joe?
Temporary job fence around the perimeter.
That would not be pretty for the neighbors. I think installing a legit fence would look better.
What type of fence are you proposing across
So
the back?
the back, Can we go to, oh, there it is. Okay. So the back, essentially ignore the gate. It would look like the gate, but without rollers and without the 119. It would look like that walk-in gate. So
Uh-huh.
just wrought iron.
Just a 4-foot fence in the back.
Let me go to the site plan. What did we have in there? We had it higher in the back. We had 4 foot in the front. And we are asking. Does it say
The
6
coyote
foot?
fence is already on the north side.
And it's 6 foot.
Well,
East side. Okay.
yeah,
You're right, here, technically.
Usually, I mean, in San Antonio, it's 6 feet is what's acceptable. So if that's
So you want to go
acceptable,
with a metal fence or a coyote fence like here?
the metal fence in the back by Town Creek.
and on the east side, you want to go with, on the left, you want to go with coyote fence?
Yeah, on left and right. And that's also, I believe that's what the neighbor on the other side has too.
It does.
So we just want to continue what's already there.
On the back, on the south side, next to the creek, you don't want a privacy fence?
We want yes, hold on. Wrought iron gates are proposed for the front and where the end of the lot slopes down to the creek. So I think we want access.
You can come up and.
Yeah, he can
Because we're recording.
At the very back of the fence that goes down to the creek, I'm Ruben Perez, I'm at that very bottom of the creek. And we're also proposing to continue the cedar fence to keep people from coming in. Also, you're looking at it on the left side,
Can we go to the site plan? So
yeah, on the left side and right side, we want to do that. But on the left side, we're going to be having to do some cleaning, and I don't know how to say this, but
landscaping,
the landscaping, and there's a lot of materials and
encroachments,
other
yeah.
stuff that we want to go ahead and put within the envelope while we're constructing. And yeah, obviously it's a lot easier to do it before you go be putting a big or acceptable home without going in there and clearing all that out. We'd rather do that. In the front, yes, we could do temporary fencing while we're doing construction. Obviously, we want to secure the place, but we'd like to get that done. Now, the slope goes down there. We put a 4-foot metal fence so that
The proposed site plan is on page 1, 2, 3, 4. So we could go to that page and we can kind of show you where the lot slopes down and where he's suggesting the iron gate down to the Town Creek. It's like right past the portico and the driveway, so that there's a gate there. That's where you want 4 foot.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm sure on what we're talking about here. On the back of the property, I think you all are calling it a coyote fence. I'm calling it a stockade fence, same difference. But is that what's proposed for all 3 sides of the building right now with a metal gate? Or is it a metal fence across the whole back?
Okay, no, so it's that coyote fencing, I just clarified. It's coyote fencing on 3 sides of the lot. So left, far back by the Town Creek, and right. And then it's a small iron gate between the driveway and the coyote fence because there's a sharp slope. And I think the reason we're thinking that is I have a baby and they could go down if we just have the coyote fence at the very end. So putting a 4-foot safety between the slope and the end of the lot.
There's 2 fences on the back.
Yes.
On the creek side. So
Yes.
a cedar fence, which is tall for privacy, and then
Yes.
more for safety.
Yes. Sorry for the confusion. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dave.
So Richard, are there any other comments on talking about a fence tonight or maybe a little later?
My opinion is that I have no issues with the coyote fence because it's existing on one side of it. But I feel like an iron fence should be discussed. I feel like that's a design element that needs to be consistent with the historical home as well as the new home that they're going to build.
What would you propose as like the 4-foot safety fence for kids then, as a historic type of fence, so we can consider it and talk about it? Double loop.
Amy, that iron fence or the fence she's talking about is an interior fence inside the yard behind the house.
But it's also the same on the front side of the house.
So if we approve the fence, we'll be approving the one on the front too, won't we?
And that's the part that I feel should
Yeah.
be reflective of the architectural qualities of the historical home and the new home.
Could we?
Similar to what you did on Austin and Bowie.
Yeah, but what if we?
Let's break this apart one
Yeah,
more time.
Yeah, I
what
think
if we
that's
did-
a good
what if
one.
we did that the fencing for 3 sides and not the.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. So there is already a coyote fence on both sides right now?
East and west.
Yeah, there's a bunch on the left side. There's the same amount. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we just want to continue that and then add it on the back of Town Creek, and then behind the house would be a 4-foot safety fence, and we're proposing the front 4-foot fence. Also, right across the street, there's another house on Travis. Yeah, if you turn it, keep going a little bit more, they have a front yard fence. Several houses on this street have little front yard fences.
So Richard, you want to craft that?
I have one more question. On the east side, how tall is the current?
6 feet, right? Did we measure that? Do you know? Oh, that guy.
No, the White House right at the front.
Oh, the front part. The one on this side, it looks like it slopes up, but the one on Mr. Rivera's house is consistent.
And how tall is that?
I don't have a measurement. Do you?
Okay.
The one on Mr. Rivera? Okay, 6 foot to 8 in the very back. Sloped.
Right.
And you're asking for 6 foot? You're gonna change the one that's there already?
No, we're not changing any, we're not touching there. Just
On our side.
Okay.
Slope it down.
And then down the bottom, and like Megan said, slope. We don't want to put in. Before you go to slope.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe.
All right, where I was going with that, if we're gonna move the house to the northeast corner, we don't wanna put a fence there that's gonna obstruct the view of the little house that's already there. So we don't wanna have a tall fence go in there.
So could we copy the other side and do that kind of sloped coyote?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make a motion that application is this.
23,181.
That application
23,181.
181, we allow for coyote fence on 3 sides. And the fence on the first 40 feet of the east side not be greater in height than 4 feet.
Can't have to because it's already, it's already right up to their property.
Wait, you gotta hang on. We gotta follow our kind of protocol here on making motions, and if it doesn't pass.
Yeah. If there's a new fence built, it can't exceed 4 feet.
Is there a second to that motion?
That's for the first 40 feet because that's where they're asking to put the house with 14 foot of setback and 24 foot of house, you said? You said the house was 24 foot deep?
24 wide and 26.
Okay. So 40 foot.
So you seconded that?
Yes, I second that.
Okay, so Shelby, can you repeat that just so for clarity?
I think I'm gonna need clarification, but I have that Richard made a motion to allow a coyote fence on 3 sides with a max height of 4 feet.
On the first 40 feet
On the first
on the
40.
east side. Because that's going to keep that line of sight open.
And then the
East side is the one, the historical home, where they want to move the historical home, right?
Yes.
okay, so everyone's clear on what that motion is, and obviously with on the other side
Isn't
of
that
it.
the fence that's already there?
Mhm.
We're gonna
Some
be
of it's
abutting?
already there, so maybe it's for the part in front of it.
And so,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's why I wanted to understand the relationship of where this house is gonna be in relationship to 313, this exact view. So what's that, how close is it gonna be? I think that's where we're kind of missing some understanding on how it's gonna line up to its neighboring properties.
Okay, so the motion that we have on the table right now is for allowing coyote fencing on 3 sides, east, south, west side. And on the first 40 feet of the east side, not to exceed 4 feet for new construction fence. That's what we have on the table right now. Discussions. We have a second as well.
And then we discuss
Yeah,
it.
they're open for discussion.
Okay, so, Richard, I think your point is so right. And so if that fence is already existing and the, well, house is moved to a corner,
Mhm.
then it's gonna block off the side of the house.
No,
You
she's
know-
giving it 8 foot though.
Say that again?
She's giving it 8 foot on her site plan. But we haven't approved the exact location. We're just approving concept on that.
Okay, but isn't the northeast corner gonna be right there next to that fence that's already existing?
I mean, that setback on that house is probably a 25 foot.
Yeah, so it's actually better to get it closer to the street in line with the other one. But we're not talking about the house now. We're talking
No,
about.
I know, just,
But you're talking about the fence because you want the visibility of the house.
Right.
But isn't that fence already there belongs to the?
But we have no jurisdiction over the fence that's already there already.
but if they add on to it to bring it out closer to the street, then that
Has to be low.
Any further discussion on that motion?
I'd like Anna to weigh in on the motion.
I'm just not a proponent of front yard fences. This is what we see and it drives me crazy. I don't know if it's the STR movement. Everybody thinks they have absolute privacy. And this is a decent case, but people would bring these 4-foot fences all the way out to the curb if they could. And it disrupts the flow of the neighborhood and the lots. Fredericksburg has been open for decades and now everything is getting parceled off to the max. So I think we need to keep the front yards open as much as we can for as long as we can.
But are we not talking about the front right now, just the side?
Right, but when the side extends into the front, when it comes beyond the front yard,
Mhm.
then it's a front yard fence. So that's again, the placement of the house dictates where the front yard starts.
Mhm.
So maybe the fence talk might be a little premature.
Go ahead.
You go back. Visuals of the it's not going to go. I think that'd be cool.
That's the west side. It's not going to extend past the west side. And on the east side,
So the house, it's not gonna go any further. It's gonna be.
we can't see what you're pointing at. So you can either point on our screen or maybe verbalize it.
Yeah, there's one.
Right.
So you're not constructing a fence. Any new fencing on the east side? So
So he's saying that, like, that on that side, there was never a plan to go even further, even closer to the street. Right.
okay. So the motion that Richard made and that Sharon seconded would be fine because it would allow the fencing on the south side to be put in and give you some security on your equipment,
Yeah.
at least for that. So if there are no further discussions on the motion we have on the table, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
So it's 3-2 motion. I believe that's right. 3-2 motion carries. So you have the ability to put fencing on 3 sides.
Okay.
Okay. it doesn't sound like right now we're very comfortable with putting fence on the front
We can work
elevation
on it.
until we see the further plan. And
Understood.
how about we tackle the not exact location of moving the historic building, but the ability to move it? We open that up for discussion. And
Do you not know where you want to put it on the lot?
We do, on the northeast corner.
They had it called out.
Oh, okay.
and I'm just
And we've already spoken with the neighbor who's in support of it at that location.
I have that.
yeah. I mean, my only point is it might if we just allow you to move it and come back with the exact location. Once you start drawing stuff up, it might be to your benefit to wait until everything's drawn up. But if you have the approval to move it and then you design your new construction, that might give you a little bit more flexibility. But it's just my.
What would give me more flexibility?
If we approve tonight to move the historic building, you can only move it to that exact point. You can't move it anywhere else without coming back to us.
Understood.
And
I think we need to prove it in concept, but I think to Anna's point, we need to have, I mean, she's asking to get 10 foot into the setback. So I think we need to verify and have staff verify what the adjacencies are and how they're in the setback before we just blatantly go ahead and say,
this
yes.
is that's what my whole rationale is. If we can give them the direction that they can move the structure, then they can come back and give us the exact location and how that fits in with the new construction.
Yeah,
Probably
I
to
think I can
everyone's
speak to
benefit.
this one.
Yeah.
So when we come back, you're gonna want to see the streetscape to give me that approval, right? And you're gonna want to see, like you said before, a version of elevations.
We're going to definitely need to see when you come back. We want to see exactly what you're going to build and where you're going to put the historic building and what the new construction is going to look like. So we'll need to see that before
They
we
need
approve.
architectural drawings. Is that what you're saying?
So we cannot move it until we are through approvals with both historic
I'd like to get this thing
renovation plans
No,
and
that's
new
not what I'm
construction
saying.
plans.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
So
What?
what I'm saying is that the board sounds like we are all in favor of you guys moving
Got
the
it.
historic building.
Okay.
But in order to approve any new construction, we're going to have to see a complete site plan and elevations all the way around, not just the front, but everything, see how it fits in with that historic property. And so what's holding you up right now is, I mean, you need the approval to move it to a location and then build something new.
Okay. And then essentially design the new house and then come back here.
Yeah.
And have the streetscape.
Sure.
Please.
Speak in the microphone.
I just want, obviously, this is going to be a big financial endeavor. Okay. So we're trying to get this started, and with all due respect to and all the rules that they've been through many times. I've never been through this. But what I want to make sure is that I'm hearing that if you're approving us to move it based on the way it is here, 8-foot setback from the side, that we can go ahead, get permit, and a month from now move it. Is that what you're saying, or are you saying you need to see the entire plans of the new home, and the old home's basically going to be the same on the outside. It's just what material. Because that second part, if you need everything else, then that's going to require additional capital and going back and forth to get this plans to where you guys would approve the entire thing.
Right.
Is that what you want?
Let me state it. We're on your side.
Okay.
We've been through a lot of these before,
Right.
so we're trying to help you avoid some mistakes. and some costly mistakes.
Right.
And so if we approve, as you've asked, and we can do that, move the building to this particular spot, that's great. You come back in 6 months later and you try to get some new construction approved, it may not fit in with the plan. And then you're back to square one. So we're trying to help you
Okay.
through the
So
project.
then, excuse me, so then we've got your approval. Then we will bring you some exterior elevations.
I know we don't have a motion yet, so.
Right, well, exterior elevations of the entire project. After that.
Let's get the motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I'm gonna make a motion to approve an application at 311 East Travis to allow the current structure to be moved to the northeast corner and have the setback on the east side be 8 foot and have the ability to come back and correct or amend the 14-foot 4-inch setback from the north side, the front, to align with the adjacent buildings.
Is there a second for that?
I would second that.
Now let's open up that for discussion.
So you're approving what they have on this plan, or are you moving
I'm
it back?
approving,
4 feet?
the motion is to set the 8 foot on the side, on the east side.
So
that they
that's
have
8
called-
foot further, 4 foot further back than they have it on the drawing.
No, it's
No.
8 foot right here. It's 8 foot setback on the east side, 14.4 on
Okay,
the north.
But the 14.4 is to the building, not to the porch, and the porch should align with the adjacent buildings. So I think it's gonna get pushed back some more.
I think it's
so
gonna
you're
be pushed
pushing it back.
too.
I think they're gonna have to,
Okay.
so.
There's 17 feet between the proposed new construction and
Yeah,
the
I
one
can't
story.
help you there.
So what, just so you know, I mean, so you're gonna have to come back on that. And so,
That's gonna have to come
but
back.
we're not
on-
gonna solve that tonight.
Okay.
But I'm trying to get you emotions that you can move to that corner.
Right,
Okay. Okay. Got the point.
okay.
I'll second that. Or you
So
said-
she's already,
sorry.
Amy already seconded it. So now we're in for discussion. So part of that, as Richard just pointed out, likely you're gonna have to increase the setback from the street side to accommodate the elevation changes for the other structures on that street.
The adjacency,
Right.
which is what Anna was talking about earlier.
Okay.
And that
I
would
think
be
it's
to the front of
important
the
to
porch.
see the
not to the front of the
orientation
building.
of where they want it compared to what's happening on either side of them.
Well, the motion basically says they can go to this spot. Exactly, but they're gonna come back and change the front, that back.
The setback off the street. It's gonna have to go farther back on the line.
As I understood the motion, we're gonna compare the front setback,
Yes,
so the side setback is what's,
we've approved
yes.
in the motion.
Any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. So you have the approval to move that historic structure to the setbacks 8 foot on the east side. You'll need to come back for the setback on the north side. It can't be 14.4. It'll be something much greater than, not much, but it'll be greater than.
Okay. So the next time I come back, can we break up my visits so that we can get this one-story home moved, start that process, and then come back with what you proposed, which is the city streetscape and the architectural elevations.
Yep. I mean, you can refer to the city and work with them, what's
Okay.
required for typical new construction within the district, but it's very well outlined.
Okay. I'll back up on it.
It's gonna be easier if you bring this building back separate.
Okay, well, then let's do that.
And then that saves you the cost of the second set of renderings right now.
Thank
Trying
you.
to help you save money because it's a big endeavor.
It is. Yeah, we appreciate it. We were worried about that.
So from the application, I think we've covered everything we can on the current application.
Demolition and,
Well, the
the fencing.
demolition, the fencing, and
And
then
then
the movement of this.
changing it.
I would just say that you can put up a construction fence without a permit across the front.
You can.
Yeah,
Just
a temporary fence.
And porta potties, cameras.
Yeah, it's all good.
they're all over town.
Okay. Sure.
You've gone back to see what this young lady and her brother have done in San Antonio. I'm really proud of it, proud of what they've done. And this is going to be an example of what to do with little historic casitas, okay? With the nowadays, the new times that we're in, is still preserving the old. And that they believe in it. I didn't at first when they were looking at houses about as bad as this. This is pretty bad. I said, you guys are crazy. Okay, but they're not. And you're going to be proud of them too.
We're excited.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Moving on to the final application of the evening, application 23-186, 309 West Schubert. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. My name is Gilbert Gonzalez. I'm the owner, operator of Fide Custom Homes, and this is the owner of the subject properties, Sidney Donald. First of all, we've been in front of the board here a few times, and y'all have always been helpful in helping us get things accomplished. And one of the things that we'd like to do, this is a real good example. I don't know if you can point to it. Before the drought, with all this ivy. Okay, this was all ivy, all supported by since we've had our drought and stuff, all this stuff dried up, we're all out. Now we have a situation where we'd like to build a fence, a stone fence, and let's see what. The area affected Mile Street, Central over here. The area that we're talking about, important part of the frontage on Stewart Street. Okay, let's go to the next page. Option A calls for a construction of this stone fence with articulation. We wanted to demonstrate that this right across the street, this is right now the street on the other side, the creek is 5-foot fence with a widow's wall. What we're proposing is keeping it similar in terms of what is happening in the neighborhood, stuff that is already there. Now we understand the guidelines, as opposed to standard guidelines, are in the Texas Historical Commission definition. They're suggestions, and one of the things that we're trying to do is to minimize the obstruction to any character defining elements, any features of the building. So if you go back to that original,
shows the hedges.
The picture.
There you go.
Okay. I guess we should decide, 6 foot. Bridging up the, special features. This is really where they act. You look on the island, this thing. Let me show you some pictures of this, what that looks like. But at 6 feet, that hedge does not obscure. Yeah, here we go.
The building to the east is also historic, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
Building to the east.
Or the left of the picture.
No, that you're talking about on the property, that's late addition. That's this the white, to the white.
Yes.
To the left, that is not historic.
What, did you add that on?
No, Albert Keitel added that. Well, Mrs. Bogish added that on in 1977.
Thank you.
But Sharon, I do think that where that's added on, what it's added on to, yes, is historic.
The stone structure is historic.
The stone wall, there's two walls, there are two stone walls that are historic in the farm. With the additions to that.
Yeah, there's a
Right,
rock
right.
wall that
Well-
faces, sure.
We thought this was an interesting segue into this presentation because we're trying to mirror the mass and the volume of what's already there, and we wanted to really do this for Sydney's safety. Why don't you tell us what's going on there right now from some of the foot traffic that we're getting?
I have people in my yard all the time. I had an entire tour bus walk in at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd walk out in my robe and shoo them all away. And we've had people who have had a little bit too much fun in Fredericksburg, walking up and down the street. One of them had so much fun he actually fell into the creek, and I said, hopefully onto the water side. No, he fell into the rock side and still didn't hurt himself. So that's how much fun he'd had. We've got going across the street, not only a wine tasting, but a restaurant and a distillery. And so I've been a little bit concerned
You're
about
talking about Grand Central,
at Grand
not the
Central.
yellow.
Right.
Grand Central.
Right at Grand Central. So I've been a little bit concerned about that increasing the traffic. I mean, Milam is, from when I bought the house in 1988 and renovated it then, the traffic is 4 or 5 times what it was. And so I'm sitting there on a very busy and active and getting more active corner. And I'm happy. I mean, Grand Central ended up as being as best as I could hope for in a lot of ways. But I still wish Supergrass was there.
Me too.
So that's part of the motivation. The other is that having a dog, the 3-foot fence does not keep the dog in. So that's another concern. I can't have my friends bring over dogs and they have to come into the pool area, which is fenced off because they're too big.
What we've done basically, to show you the Milam Street side, the red line, there's a demarcation between what the historical part of the structure is, the late addition part behind it. So we're not really concerned about the obstruction of character defining features on that side of the building. So we wanted to kind of give a couple of options on how to do this fence. Now, I know how you feel about fences. This is a great segue into this discussion. We want to talk about option A. Let's look at option A.
Is that the one that you call the Widow's Walk on top?
No, there's no Widow's Walk down.
Oh,
That's just an example. That's just down the street. To just show you down the street. That's what's in the neighboring property.
Okay, so right now, it is situated exactly where the chain link fence was forward from the corner of the big cross. I think it is the big cross. Two entrances, pedestrian.
So is, point out the corner of Milam and Schubert. And on the previous
back.
one. Because your site
Go back.
plan says
Right.
something different than that.
So the house is between the house is on the corner. There's no fencing on the corner.
That your site plan says that your fencing is going to go on the property line all the way down Schubert and go in front of the historic property. That's what this shows. That's what your application shows.
We're just talking about the historic building.
So your application shows your proposed fence goes from the corner of Schubert all the way 6-foot fence.
It's just in this proposed area.
So what happens when it gets to the house?
It's just in this proposed area.
Even
That's what the shaded.
You can attach it to the house?
No, it curves back. It's not attached to the house. You can see it.
So,
Back. So it's like the way it was. Except instead of having to chain link,
okay,
And
so
the white fence will go away, right?
white fence,
so the fence that you're proposing is at the same location as the white picket fence?
no, it's not on white fence.
And so it's a setback to the historic property. Then if you keep going to the east,
Nothing there.
does it go in front of that other historic structure? The
No,
stone
it
structure?
doesn't go in front of any buildings.
Okay.
Fencing does not go in front of any buildings.
Gilbert, all these pictures are really pretty, but I think if you'd have done a straight on elevation, we could understand what you're doing here a lot easier.
Want to make sure, David, that only the shaded circular object on the site plan is where the fences go. Okay. Had we done what you were talking about, I would have shaded the whole property. So we're just talking between the two buildings. Okay, so there is the first option. I just wanted to show you what is around the neighborhood. I think one of the things that we're trying to do is to keep the one of the exceptions, or one of the considerations is that we minimize the character defining features, but we're also talking about making this a safety issue, which will go above what the guidelines call for.
So where this is located, understand that I'm pretty passionate about this home because Albert Keitel redid it 3 times. He did it in the 30s, the 50s, and the 70s. And in the 70s, he did it for Mr. and Mrs. Bogish. And at that time, he did the landscape. He was pretty incredible. Drew everything from seed. So keeping the fence where it was originally is not going to impede the landscaping plan, which I told Gilbert today. Divine Providence must have been speaking to me because I found the drawing that I didn't even know I had. I was going through some of my husband's stuff, and I found, and it's not in good print because it was on the computer, but it shows how he laid out the interior yard. So locating it further back is going to impede the design he had for the landscaping, which to me is what sold the house. When I walked in, it looked just like this. But when I walked into the yard and I looked at the landscaping and how brilliantly it was designed, that's what sold it. And so I'm trying to get it back to that with being a little bit more conscious about water usage and things like that. The drought and a few other things is just taking a big.
Right. Sheldon, you want to?
Sure. Thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation. As they had mentioned, the applicant is requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a 5-foot tall, and my apologies, because perhaps the site plan I had incorrect. I had a total of 99 feet long, but obviously now we know that that's not correct.
Correct.
Long rock fence at the front of the property facing West Schubert Street. The property is high rated, and when staff was doing a review, we found that a high rated property, historically we don't support front yard fences where they weren't historically located. And we do have some allowances that would allow for a fence to be built in a front yard. The historic design guidelines reference adjacent uses, troubling uses, and if the board finds that the fence is permissible and meets those requirements, then the maximum height that's allowed is still 3 feet. That's what we reference in the design guidelines, which is found in 3.2.12, which is landscaping and site features. So as the property is a corner lot and it does have frontage onto a major roadway, staff did find that there's other neighboring properties that have solid rock fences further down Schubert Street, and the addition of this fence wouldn't necessarily be out of character. But when we look at the context of it being a high-rated property and the requirements for that section, staff can't support the addition of the rock fence. If you find that it does meet the criteria to have a front yard fence, then the design guidelines support 3 feet as the maximum height.
So board, let's open up for discussion. Good thoughts on it.
Doesn't the chain link fence set a precedence for the height? Does it not?
I don't know that it was approved. I don't know that we would have approved a chain link fence. And I don't know that we have a permit or a C of A for it.
The chain link fence might have been there before there was a historic review board.
That was definitely there
Well,
before. It's been there since 1977.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in this house,
Had
both
I
when
would
it,
never take it down.
when it was the Perrys and when it was the
It
Boshes.
was the Paris, it's been there a long time.
So how tall is that chain link?
That
Well, 6 feet, like right here.
So a fence versus a wall, I think, is also an important,
Except that it's solid with the ivy on.
except ivy dies.
Well,
And it's
all
seasonal.
I have to do is planting.
I grew up in this neighborhood, and I've always thought it was a stone fence covered with vines. So never knew it was a chain link fence. I used to ride my bicycle by it every day on the way to school. So it's been there for a long time. I'd really like to see a drawn elevation of this, Gilbert. No offense, but these cartoon drawings aren't telling us a lot. And I think if you want to get this passed, you should table it and come back next month with proper elevations that shows the height of the tidal addition onto the barn, and give us something that we can work with a little bit better and try to get approved for you.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
There are others.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's one opinion. I mean, let's open it up.
I would support Richard. I agree with that. I also have to clarify something. If the building to the east of you has an addition that was built in 1977, but it's added on to a historic building, it's still considered historic, right? My historic building has an addition that was added on somewhere 70s and 80s, but it's still a historic building.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The fence, I think, as proposed, will not cover that either.
It's not gonna cover, it's not
It's not
gonna
going to
touch
cover either
It's not going
building.
to
Goes
cover
between the
either.
two of them.
But it doesn't butt it.
It does,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you. That's all I needed.
I think one thing I like about the fence, it does cover up Albert's bay window that is not historic to this property.
Definitely not.
I thank staff for pointing out what's in our guidelines. Obviously, if we're following the guidelines as of written, it's 3 foot on the front fence. However, if someone makes a motion, there are exceptions to the guidelines. We just need to state what that exception is, whether it's safety or whatever. And it's several different categories.
Well, and from what I can tell from your drawing, you're asking for a 5-foot fence, but you have 8-foot arches around gates or doors or something.
These are antique gates that she has in storage that we're going to be incorporating into the gives a little more authenticity, some antiquity to the.
So it's actually taller than 5 feet.
Yeah,
Oh,
in
the
places.
door, yeah,
the
gates.
doors are, yeah. Now, if you went around to the other side, to your point, Amy, we were here in 2018 and we added on to the backside of the historical building. Okay. And then from there to the property line to obscure the pool equipment, we added an antique door there with a trellis because there's some of those elements on the property and they grow vines and they look really nice. So they're a little bit taller than what the fence is. That's just an accent.
You can submit it how you want, but I think to Shelby's point, it might be better to submit it out of stucco or something other than rock, so that we don't get a confusion with what's old.
Oh, without a question, we want to differentiate between the historical portion of it and what the new part is. We're all on board with that. That's how we did that addition in 2018.
Or even dry stack like they did at the Pioneer Museum around the Sunday House might be something that's more acceptable.
Just to clarify, you're wanting it to be a stucco wall?
We're probably not going to want it to be rock because, like on the addition on the Milam Street side that you show, it's confusing what's old and what's new, and that's probably not going to be allowed.
For new construction, we'd like to see a separation between old and new.
I just would have thought that when you have two historic buildings, you might kind of keep it so that it's out of the same materials.
I think the guidelines are pretty clear, so if you'll look at those.
I think you're hearing from the board is support for fencing there. We just probably need a little bit more detail, especially on some of the gateways that are going to potentially be higher than what we kind of thought in the application. So how do you guys want to handle this? You want to table it, or you could make a motion on this one to approve it or deny it and come back to do one, or preference? If we table it, then they don't have to pay that.
If we table it, then what?
And they don't have, they don't have to, they can just come back next month, they don't have to pay for the fee of the city.
Well, I think it's a real valid concern about safety. I mean, I do, and I would like to see just a little bit more detail. And so if we table it and you get that detail to us, then we have something to talk about. And I also think the idea of the gate even being taller than what we're talking about for fence, probably, maybe you might want to come back with something that's not taller.
You could figure out how
Then
to
the wall.
cut them down. They're awful expensive.
And maybe you could maybe you
They
can
can be
figure out a
cut
way
down.
to
I mean, I'm being
incorporate that.
facetious. Problem. They're very expensive.
The guidelines say 3 feet. And so you're talking about 5 feet, which your argument is, it rings true to me. But then if the gate goes even higher, then, yeah.
Yeah, maybe different gates.
Sounds like there might be some support.
Thank you for your
just
input there,
take
Rob.
that as a positive note.
Sure. Okay, so are you going to motion, table? What do y'all want to do?
So look,
Because we want to come back.
Let's table this application till November. You guys can come back with a redesign of the information and hopefully move quickly.
Get elevations.
But do you have enough feedback to help you?
As a matter of fact, we already have that drawing when we got the addition approved in 2018. There's an elevation drawing that was addressing the massing and what the view was going to be from Schubert Street to the. So we've already got it. Yeah.
Well, we'll see you next month.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sydney, our neighbors have a plaque on their house, like a historic marker like you do. They had a brass marker next to it that has private residence on it. It's really helped them they're on the corner of San Antonio and Crockett. And they had people trying to open their door.
Mine's on the Milam side,
Yeah, but if you put it on
and
that,
everybody comes down Schubert.
because if that bus driver had seen it, I doubt he would have left. So
Oh, no, he wouldn't have seen it, because they
they
were
came from
driving
Schubert.
down, they were coming west, so they
Yeah.
drive down Schubert, because the whole street's pretty, so
Yeah.
they showcase
Yeah.
Schubert.
Anyway, it's helped them some. Just a suggestion.
You know, people don't mean anything by it, but it's still intrusive. And
Yes, it is.
unnerving. When you wake up in the morning and there's
We're
sweaty
sympathetic.
people speaking German and English in your yard. And you're in your
Having
bathrobe.
coffee out on your courtyard.
We are sympathetic. They know, yeah.
You know, I don't really want to have my picture taken in my bathrobe.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all very much for your time.
Thank
And we appreciate what you all do.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Anna, or shall we have a director's report?
Fingers crossed, made an offer today for an HPO, so fingers crossed she'll accept. And the comp plan, the staff draft is out, so staff's taking the time to go through that. And then we'll get that before the advisory committee late October, early November, and it'll be going to council for adoption. They'll have a joint meeting with planning and zoning in December, so comp plan is coming together. So when we make a draft available for you guys, I hope you'll take the time to go through it. It stands right now at 100 pages. You guys have 100-page packets all the time, so no big deal.
Thank you.
Any items to include on next month's agenda, or any topics?
I just have a question. Will we be getting some of that historic information on the gas station?
Didn't you do a bunch of research on that?
Yes, let me package what I have. I can't guarantee that I can do anything new right now, but I can give you one.
Sure, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
it was
do that.
extensive.
They weren't on the board. And
Yeah.
Yes.
we did a whole gas station study.
Yeah, let me package that and get it out to you.
And demolition by neglect. Did letters go out?
The house on San Antonio.
Do you have a couple?
No,
Was it 119?
Those have not gone out.
those have not gone out.
Well, you want to give an update on the Hondos?
Oh,
Stop work
yeah.
order on that?
Stop work order has been issued for Hondos. We anticipate seeing them at the November meeting.
And just you want to bring folks up to speed on that they're not aware.
It was you guys approved the rehab of the old Gold's Barber Shop. It's to be rehab for a new restroom there by the stage. And as I said in the email, it was demolished, and so I think they saved some features. So we'll find out what they have, what they've salvaged, and what they can get recreated. So we'll talk about that at the next meeting.
Nothing there. It's just a big hole.
And I took a look like the stage once it had moved over, but maybe I was wrong. So anyway.
I have a question. Old business, the tequila bar from San Antonio,
The what?
the tequila bar,
Yeah.
Bo Carpenter's property.
You got a C of A for a different paint palette. Not seeing any work done, but there's an approval now for a much more muted, neutral palette.
Wasn't one of the stipulations of his C of A that he maintained a water feature of some type? It didn't have to be like what was there originally, but there was a water feature on that property since the early 40s. I was driving by the other day. I'm not sure there's anything
Yeah, I'll have to go back
there
and see
for
the
that.
approved site plan to see.
I just don't, I feel like it's an important historical feature that needs to be in place. And I'm not sure there's any consolation for it based on the work that's on there.
We'll have to go back to the site plan that was approved and see what's included.
And compare that to what's there.
Has the colors already been approved? I'm sorry. The new colors?
Yes, he worked with, yes. So it's a neutral palette, I'll say taupe and off-white. Yeah. So toned down.
Any action on the 100 block post replacement?
No, other than 151 East Main, they came in before us and they came in for their colors today. So expect those, but not the others. I'm not seeing any movement. Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
So move. Second.
So moved.
second.
Yeah, we did. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not good. You can have it as
Don't
a
want it.
consolation for many years of service.
That's my gold watch, huh?
Yeah. Lack thereof. Yeah, I thought that fence was going to go all the way in front. Right.